From Omaha, Nebraska, to whatever lane you're driving, this is the H&M Trucking Podcast with your host, Marcus Bridges.
What's up, everybody, and welcome into the H&M Trucking Podcast, episode 51. I'm your host, Marcus. Thank you all for being here today. Little homework before we get started here. Don't forget to click that subscribe button. If you haven't already, you can do it on any platform that you want. Wherever you listen, if you click subscribe, it will alert you every time we crank out a new episode. It's absolutely free. All it costs is just one tap. And I know some of you have been out there tapping Tinder like crazy. So you know what? Throw me a bone here. Tap subscribe, help out the H&M Trucking Podcast. If we've ever had anything on this podcast that you enjoy, whether it be, talking to drivers, talking to office staff, maybe you learned something, maybe Eve laid down the law and you're like, okay, I can't do that. That's really helped me along. I kind of know what I can and can't do. And sometimes we toe that line on this podcast and we get some excitement out of it, but keep it at 10 and 2 as James Fonda would say. What are we getting into on this episode? Well, this is kind of a special one. I've got a really long interview for you here. Really long, relatively. It's just longer than most of the ones that we do. And the reason that happened is because Denny and I welcomed on driver Randy Duran from H&M. Now, Randy's been with H&M for 8 years now. Got a lot of experience under his belt. Seen pretty much everything there is to see. We also brought on Rico Gibbs, who just got hired with H&M back in January, so he's just getting his feet wet with the company. Now, he's got some driving experience with other companies that traumatized him a little bit, so we just wanted to help bridge the gap from an old driver with H&M to a new driver. What are some things that we can ask? What are some things that we can clear up here? Denny Stone himself has a decade of driving for H&M under his belt, so it worked out really well to have two very veteran drivers with Rico on the air so Rico could ask some questions, tell us a little bit about what he's going on, and a special new addition that he's got that he's really excited about as well. So this was a great interview. It's going to be the only one that we do today. So the episode will be just fully focused on new drivers versus old drivers. And not really versus. I don't want to act like we're pitting them up against each other either, because I know that the adage out there in the industry, or not the adage, but kind of the way of the road, is that these young drivers, man, they're screwing everything up. And for a lot of companies, they probably are. But we all know H&M doesn't hire anybody that doesn't have at least 24 months of experience. So when we say new drivers, I think that we're more trying to say new H&M drivers. And this conversation is great because we clear up some stuff. We put Rico's mind at ease about some stuff. And I say we because I'm just hanging out on Denny and Randy's coattails. I didn't tell the dude anything that's going to make him feel better. But I feel like I facilitated some of the conversation. So I did my part here today. And hopefully if you're a new H&M driver listening to this, you can get something out of it as well, because these guys are talking about the right people to contact. They're talking about vacation. They're talking about their time and logs and everything like that. So it's a real good conversation. It's coming up right around the corner. But first, I want to get to something that Denny has been putting together for us. He's looking ahead in the schedule to see what kind of big events are going on throughout the country, really, and trying to let you know, hey, just in case you didn't know that Bike Week was in Daytona, there's going to be some crazy traffic down there, so keep your eyes peeled. That type of stuff. And we're going to send it to Denny for traffic reporting right now.
Possible slowdowns on the Super Slab this weekend. The Ultra Music Festival's in Miami all weekend, the 22nd through the 24th. And the 24th of March, NASCAR's in Austin for the Echo Park Texas Grand Prix. Keep the shiny side up and the dirty side down. Y'all be safe out there.
Very excited about this next little segment here on the H&M Trucking Podcast. Of course, I'm joined by retired H&M driver Denny Stone again. Denny, always glad to have you around. Thanks for showing up for this one. I know I barely gave you enough notice to get here on time, so really appreciate you.
You're welcome, man. I'm here. Let's do it.
All right. I'm also joined on the line right now by H&M driver Randy Duran, coming back on the podcast yet again. Randy, thank you for being here.
No problem.
And we've also got a newer H&M driver with us, Rico Gibbs. Rico, what's up out there? How you doing?
All right. I'm good.
Now, real quick, because on this episode, we're talking about new drivers versus old drivers here. We want to bridge the gap. We want to help a new driver talk to some vets out here and see if there's anything that we can clear up or make anything easier on you. See if you have any questions. But first, I want to get a little bit of background. Rico, when did you get hired on at H&M?
Beginning of the year.
Okay, so you're still getting your feet wet there. How do you like it so far?
As long as the miles there, I don't have any complaints. How the system works with, the on and off duty and like all the like the knickknacks that we had to do for, the BOLs, the sign in. It's an adjustment because of the other companies that I came from. Some of them have the one I was with. So I'll go back two companies before I was with the company, not too far now. That's in Lamar's, which they're a decent company. They just started hiring a lot of like new drivers, like new to driving, and they were just like late and getting tickets, and of all places for a lot of speeding tickets in California, which is kind of dumbfounding to me because that's kind of like, when you get your CDL, you get the warning with that about California. But so with all that, they were losing freight. Freight is like, hey, get your shit together, then you can come back. So in return, the drivers that are they're doing what they're supposed to, we're suffering for the drivers who are fucking up. So I had to kind of like make a move, especially with my son on the way. And the job I wanted to fell through. Then I went with something that's way worse. I went to a company called, which I'm still traumatized from them. But, I had, it's an adjustment period, but everything seems to be, getting better, with time. No the issues thus far.
Yeah, like Rico, just like you, I came from some other companies. The one I was with for quite a while before H&M. My biggest challenge was getting home, and I've talked about that before on the podcast. But once I found H&M, I found a home. So I hope that works out for you as well.
Okay.
Rico, are there any questions directly that you would like to ask to a guy like Randy that's still on the road with H&M? Anything that just is kind of got you scratching your head a little bit about maybe company policies or processes or anything like that?
I'm not really. The only really thing I was scratching my head previously was how to dissect the settlement on how I get paid. So I know that I'm getting, I'm getting what I'm supposed to, and I don't have to be like, okay, so what is this? I feel like I'm missing money. But I went there a couple of weeks ago and the lady, she broke down everything to me. So it makes sense to me. Instead of me calling, bitching out anyone that's on the opposite end that's in like payroll and what, I'll ask questions first, and it has to make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, then I'm going to keep asking questions until I figure out, okay, one of the two, either, I need to just shut the fuck up and do what I need to do because it's not making sense to me. Or, this sounds like bullshit, so I need to go to the next person in line above you. Instead of calling and raising my voice and, because that's going to get you anywhere. It's going to get you ignored and your answer is not called. So, as of now, I don't really have any other questions about that.
Best person to talk to when you have questions as far as what you're getting paid, how it's broke down the right way. Talk to Pat. She's really good. She's number one in there as far as the payroll and everything goes, and she will break it down word for word and tell you exactly what you need to know and how to understand it.
Gotcha.
See, that's great. That's something.
Randy's absolutely right on that one. She knows her stuff, man.
It's.
Oh yeah, she's an old Marine, so when it comes down to breaking shit down to where you can understand it, she was a gunny in the Marine Corps, so I know how she is.
Hey, we've had Patty Roop on this podcast before, and I would say straight down to business is Patty. She knows her stuff, and you can tell I mean, I learned like 6 or 7 things within the first couple of minutes that we had Patty on the podcast the first time. So even though I don't have the driving experience everyone else does, I will second and third that motion. And I think it's really cool because those are things that you don't necessarily hear or know about until somebody tells you about them. Randy, going back to the beginning of your tenure with H&M, do you remember any challenges or things that were kind of hard to adjust to just getting started?
No, not really, because I deal with I had a partner who worked with H&M, she did the hopper side of it, and I'd been doing reefer and dry-van, so I knew pretty much what I was coming into. I had talked to Randy, the main owner, a couple times prior to me even coming on board, and I pretty much had everything set. And when I got in here, went through the orientation with everybody, met the guys over at the shop, figured, okay, if I have any problems whatsoever, I can always go and talk to them and stuff like that. And it's been an easy transition for me.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
The company I came from.
Sounds like both of you guys have a little bit of trauma from prior companies that you've worked for. Rico, do you find that so far that H&M has kind of run better than those companies that gave you that trauma before you got here?
Well, the trauma came from KB. So I think KB is basically, they just, I couldn't tell you. But yeah, I get, cause when I went to KB, to give it more clarity, if you're not sure what happened, I talked to the guy on the phone. I was like, how often do I get home? How much do I get paid? I mean, just the general question as a trucker is supposed to ask the company what they offer before I even pack my clothes for the orientation. When I got to orientation, it was 3 days, at least 10 hours a day. And instead of them putting us in the hotel into city by like the Walmart where all the food stuff is, they put us in the middle of nowhere, but they had 2 people at the other one. Come to find out, they were trying to save money. But now when we're hungry at night, we have to figure out how we're going to eat because we're not their responsibility anymore. That was like the first. Second one was like, well, you're going to be on the road for 2 months at a time. We were like, hold up. Wait, that's not why I'm here. 2 months? Like I have a newborn, so, but I can't make excuses because my son needs to eat. So I have to stick it out. They don't believe in recap. I mean, they don't believe in reset. So you will live off a recap. They keep you moving and they're all night drivers. And it was just like, then I was like, something's going on with the clock. Cause I'm very good with like clocking my hours. Cause I put everything down in a little notebook down to like how many miles I'm driven, the load number, where I'm going. I put everything down. And when I'm supposed to get back from recap, I'm like, this is too much. So I can't prove it, but I feel like they were cooking the clocks from the office because they were controlling stuff. In the middle of the night, I will see my thing light up because it's kind of distracting when you got your tablet bright while you're driving at night. Mm-hmm. They would just light up and then I would start seeing stuff move around. And first thought, I'm like, my tablet's possessed. So then I'm watching what's going on. I'm like, nah, this is them. So I'm like, I can't really complain because, we're the workers. So I can tell them what I'm seeing or I can make my case, but they're all just going to tell me a bunch of bullshit at the end of the day. So I just kind of left it alone. And when I wanted to go home, I never got home. So I ended up staying on the road almost 3 months before I was able to even see Lifetime.
Wow.
And then they put me with a new DM. And this one kind of set me over the top. I'm from Houston. So I had a load on the side of Houston. So I'm like, hey, since I'm near my house, because I have nothing in here, I'm buying fast food every day. And this is already bad. So I'm like 5 miles away from my house. I just want to pick it up, put it in, and I'll take off. He was like, well, no. So he sent me to Galveston. And I told him, anyone who's from Houston or been there know how long from Houston to Galveston it takes. So he literally told me, he was like, well, there's a street called Highway 6. Yes. On GPS, I understand it's a highway, but that's a residential street. From where I'm at, it's going to take about 3 hours to get there. Peak traffic time.
It's only that far on the map.
Yeah. Then what really pissed me off is, so there was two things that kind of set me over. You're not allowed to make U-turns, right? They were like, you need to make a U-turn, you just call, whatever. So I'm like, hey, I'm in a bad situation. You gave me a bad address. I'm on a street that I cannot turn or anything. If I go further, I'm going to get stuck. My only way to escape this is to make a U-turn. In the midst of that situation, he was like, well, let me go talk to safety. I was like, what? I was like, I wasn't asking for permission. I need to get out of this bad situation. He was like, so on top of that, he was like, we don't work verbatim. We don't work by time. We work by miles. I was like, what the f*** did you just tell me? I was like, this whole industry is by time. You got a time to pick up, a clock with work off of. Like, how do you not work by time? And I was like, you know what? You have to get me with someone else. I cannot do this with him. I cannot drive like I'm supposed to and go with this guy at the same time. I understand he's new. We just don't go together. You need to give me someone that kind of knows the road, or at least won't micromanage me while I'm driving. Mm-hmm. So it was like a horrible experience. And, even my girl was like, you need to leave now.
Yeah, you got to get to a better situation, man, especially with the new baby in the house. And congratulations, by the way, on the new addition to the family. That's awesome news. I'm glad to hear it. Denny, I saw you shaking your head in the camera a couple of times during Rico's story there. What are your thoughts?
Well, you and I've talked about this before, and one of the reasons I love H&M is because, they hire professional drivers. And once you've proven yourself, obviously, if you're brand new, they got to keep an eye on you for a little bit. But once you've proven yourself, they let that professional do what he's good at. They give you the latitude. They give you the space to do what you are a professional driver to do. Instead of, like Rico said, micromanaging and telling them, oh, no, I gotta send an email to safety and they're going to have to send one to so-and-so and we'll get back to you in an hour or two. And here you are stuck on the damn street. No, that doesn't work. And trust me, I know where you're talking about because I grew up outside of Houston.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know what that Gulf Freeway is like anytime, much less during any rush hour.
Yep. How about you, Randy? When you hear Rico talk through a kind of a terrible experience at another carrier, what are your thoughts on that when it pertains to H&M?
H&M is great because after, just like Denny was saying, after you've proven yourself here with H&M, they pretty much leave you alone. My dispatcher is Terry Michelson, and what he'll do is he'll send me my dispatch. He'll call and say, okay, well, I'm sending you this. But I also have this, and this. And we'll send it on over and I'll go through it. If I see anything that that doesn't look right, I'm going to call you and we'll hash it out. But other than that, he leaves me alone. He sends me what he wants me to do. And I just shut down the road. I've been with H&M coming on 8 years now. Me and my DM right now, they'll send me what he's got. I just do what I got to do to get it done.
How long did it take you to establish that relationship with your driver manager and your dispatcher, Randy?
My driver manager, I've had him from the get-go. And when I got him, the first day that I got him, I sat down with him, I told him, look, this is how I am. This is what I'm capable of doing. Let me do my job. If you start calling me and getting up in my shit for me doing it, then I can't do the job I'm here to do. And he understands that. He's an ex-driver himself. And I told him, I go, about a month at a time. When my time is to come home, that's where I'm going. I ain't going to be, that ain't happening.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what I ran into with a previous trucking company, I would say. It came down to the point where one time I was west of Chicago and picked up a load, or I was waiting on a load. And they kept telling me, no, we don't have anything. I said, look, I'm already a week late going home. This truck has 200 gallons of fuel. It's going home. If you want me to drag some shit that way, I'll be happy to, but I'm going to the house. Magically, a load turned up. Can you imagine?
Well, Rico, that brings me to my next question, man. Since we're talking about the newborn, so far, have you made it home when you want to make it home? Gotten to spend the time that you need to be spending with your family?
Yeah, well, normally, personally, because I came, so to make this make sense, before I was in trucking, I was a pipe fitter in the oil and gas field. So I'm used to staying out from the house months at a time. That's always been my career. Now, my girl, she wants me more often. I'm pretty sure every trucker goes through this. And it's very frustrating. She wants me home more. She really wants me local, but that's never going to happen. But I was like, look, I need to have legs. 2 weeks, maybe 3, depending on the financial demand that's there. So I've been home once. I got home I got home before I wanted to. So I spent more days home, which was great. It was awesome. The only thing was when I got back on the road, now I'm a week in a hole. I'm a week without pay and a week in a hole. So from a man's perspective, I'm like, okay, it sucks because I got no money coming in. Now I got a penny pinch. I got to go to my savings account to make everything afloat instead of doing how my normal schedule is. So I think I just need to find that sweet spot where I'm home for like 3 or 4 days. Everyone gets to see me, spend time. I get to spend time with my son, and I can go to work and make the money like I need to.
For sure.
That's easy to do with H&M. That's real easy to do with H&M because I do it, each week I know when my cutoff time is, which is for us it's on Tuesday. If you're on the van side, come that Friday, I pretty much check out, how many miles I put in, what I put in that week, and I know what I'm getting by Thursday, Friday, and even like when I'm going home, and I'm home usually I get home by Friday, over the weekend, I leave out on a Tuesday, but I have whatever I've been doing till the time I got home. There's always going to be money on that account because you want to make sure what you're doing will coincide with your time home and your time back on the road after that.
Yeah.
Hey, Rico, can I throw a suggestion at you?
Sure.
I had a buddy who was going through the same thing, had a newborn at home, and he came up with I thought it was the coolest plan ever. I don't know if it was I don't think it was a phone. I think it was a video camera or something, but his wife just propped it up on a shelf or something in the living room where it would cover the whole living room. And for like 2 hours every evening, she recorded that and sent it to him. And then when he stopped for the day, he'd put that on and he's, cooking his meal or messing around, doing whatever he does in the truck. But it's like he's part of the family for 2 hours every day. And I'd never seen that before. I thought that was such a cool thing if you got young ones. I don't know if you can try that or not, or if you want to.
Well, so I have cameras in my house, so I can see my whole living room, and I have cameras in front of the house.
That's awesome.
So
Good
I have
deal.
that, and so it's like an app on my phone, so I can log in, and I had to turn off my notifications, but it'll tell me if my dog walks through, if it's a pet or if it's a person. So I have that. My only thing is, so this is kind of, it goes back to kind of how KB was, right? So when I was out for so long with KB, when I went back home, I think it was like Christmas, it was like a day before Christmas when I got there. He was crying when I was holding him. And I guess, babies go through, from what she told me, like a stranger danger phase. If they don't remember you or know you, they just cry. So he was doing that with me. And figured out, feels like shit. When your own son don't remember you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, no, we have to do something. And when we were looking for a company to work for, which one is the better option? So I chose this one because I still get the time off on the road to do what I like to do. And then I do get to go home minimum every 2 weeks. And, so I'm like, okay, I can do that. And that's just in case, I can ironically have a load that takes me to Houston during the timeout. And I can probably spend, if I shut down in Houston, I can just spend the night there and wake up in the morning and go, so I do have those electronics where I can see him video calls. Sometimes I will FaceTime my girl and she'll put him in the camera. And while he's eating, even the daycare he goes to, she sends me pictures of him eating, so it's nice, but on the opposite side of not being there every day, it is good to see every time I go home. He's bigger. He's going to be a massive kid. I can just say that. You know, he has an 8-year-old brother, which is not my son. It's my girl's kid. He's 6 months. He's half his size already.
Wow.
He's 20 pounds at 6 months. He's already, like, he's not walking, but, you know, he's in the little walker. I mean, moving himself around. He's rolling over, and he's eating whole food by himself without choking.
That's amazing.
Wow. Hey, throw one of your shirts that doesn't reek too bad in the bed with him. Let him have that, because that's what we do with dogs. My wife's a vet tech, and that's how dogs bond with people, is mostly through scent. I assume it would work with a baby too. That way he'd recognize your scent if he doesn't recognize your face. He get you accustomed
like
to that.
A shirt or something.
Yeah.
Like a shirt or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's, you know, the logic of it is like when you realize it, at least for dogs, I don't have kids, but my first corgi that I got, that dog would whine for 8 straight hours in the middle of the night. And finally somebody just said, hey, get one of your socks, like a tube sock that you've worn, you know, for a few hours during the day. And I want you to put just a plastic water bottle filled with hot water inside that sock and put it in his kennel with him. It was night 1, hour 1. That dog shut up, and he's not had a problem sleeping since. And it was, you know, that's obviously it's probably a little tougher to do with a human child. And I know that for sure, but that's great advice. And I think that, you know, who knows what worse is going to do is he's just going to throw the shirt out.
You haven't lost anything.
Yeah, exactly.
I have to try that. So yeah, I don't have an issue trying that. Got plenty of shirts he can use.
There you go. Hey, Randy, what type of advice do you have about trying to keep in touch with family and stay close with family while you're out there on the road?
My phone, I use my phone on a constant basis. I talk to my wife every day. I talk to my daughter every day. So if they have any problems, you know, they can get a hold of me. Same thing with my older son, stuff like that. Yeah, you know, pick up the phone, dial the number, or go into video call me, and we'll sit here and talk all you want.
Yeah, that's why you guys are so great for podcasts, is because it works the same way with your local podcast host. Just I call you and I get to talk to you for as long as you can. It's really nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Beats the hell out of the old days when you had to go to the truck stop and go to the phone bank and wait on your turn and shit.
Not that old, but it's you.
Well, I did tell you he's retired, right? So
yeah.
This has been great, guys. Well, listen, before we run out of time here, I just want to open it up to you, Rico, real quick. I'll say, is there anything else that you want to ask Denny or Randy while we've got him here? Since you're in it, you're an H&M employee now. Things are going well. Anything that you have a question about before we let you get back on the road, do your job?
So I do have a question. Well, I have two actually, right? So one's professional, one's personal. I'll start with the professional. So you guys are more experienced than me. I'm very I can create my own way. I just want to hear you guys' opinion or thoughts on it. When it comes to dealing with the sun, how do I keep it out of, what are some things other than getting, makeshift tents or using sun visors? Because, that can be a driving hazard. Because there are sometimes I can't see anything but the lines on the road. Mm-hmm. But what are some ways that I can, help that with the company or within the company guidelines, if you understand my question?
Randy?
As far as the company guidelines, I don't think I've never heard them having any guidelines as far as protecting yourself so you can see the road. Me, I have sunglasses that I've had for almost 15 years, and they work perfect in sunlight, especially when I'm heading out in sunlight, stuff like that. And there's different companies have their own different ways. What you can do is, put something up and go by the shop or go by the main office. Let them look at it. Let them give you their opinion on it. Because if it's something that's gonna block your view and them or safety say something about it that you know ahead of time. If you're out on the road, you get pulled over, state troopers are going to give you a ticket, and that's something that you'd have to deal with.
Okay.
I carry 2 cats with me in my truck. I have a hammock that sits on the front dash. And I was going through New Mexico one year, and I got into an accident, which was not my fault. But when I pulled over, when I was pulled over, the CHP were walking around the truck, one of the state troopers stood right at the front of my truck and took a picture, and walks up and tells me that the hammock was sitting too high off the dash. And I'm sitting there looking at her, I go, okay, but wait a minute. I have my GPS, and I have my phone, which is right next to that. That's sitting, high enough to where you can see where it's sitting at. And where the hammock was, that was sitting a little bit lower. Well, it can't be there. Come to find out, it's not that it can't be there. It just can't be sitting that high, and I fixed that.
Did she give you a ticket, Randy?
Oh, yeah, she did.
They don't have much leeway out there, do they? They're just looking to get that ticket book out and start writing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go to the personal one, Rico. What do you got for us there?
Okay, the personal one is it's just the way my life is set up. So my son is half British, half American. So when my girl goes back overseas, she will take me. Obviously, I will want to go with her to take my son, or I will want to go see my son if he doesn't come back with me. However that works now, we haven't figured out
West, you just got yourself very lucky for running in the back end of this guy. We're on snow-packed roads, and you want to come running up like that.
Good. Nice if he ain't the only one dealing with him.
You have to vent or your head will explode,
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, I want to put a loudspeaker in a loud horn, or how, I don't know what they're called. Like the ones that they speak into and it kind of projects the voice louder.
Oh yeah, megaphone.
That in there. Yeah, megaphone.
PA system.
So whenever you see them, because with predictive driving, you can see it before it happens. You know what they're about to do.
If you got a Cobra, it should have an external PA speaker jack on it. You could hook that up to your CB.
Oh yeah, I just want to.
It's funny. They see these guys. They see everybody slow it down. That four-way's on, and you got this one jerk out of everybody else, hauling ass, and waits until the last minute to stop, and almost ran right into the guy in the left-hand lane from me.
Well, Randy, he's in a hurry to get to the hospital before the rest of the people that he's going to hit.
So to finish the question, when that happens, when she does go back home, because in America she can only be here for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So when she goes back, how should I manage my time with the company to spend at least when I go over there, spend at least a week there, and a week then come back to work. How should I do that within the H&M? Because I'm still trying to figure that out.
They'll work with you, man. You figure out the finances, they'll figure out how to help you make it happen. They're good people.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
There's one guy with H&M. I don't remember his name, but I know he goes to Thailand. He goes way out there, and he's gone for at least 2 weeks at a time.
So they'll make it happen.
He'll sit here and he'll post.
Yeah.
So
if your average mileage is within their parameters, they're fine with it. They'll work with you because they understand. I mean, everybody's family is important. And I'm confident that H&M will do whatever they can to help you. Now, if you don't want to drive, if you only want to drive 200 miles a day while you're out there and you're not making the miles, then yeah, it's not going to happen. But if you're a good, productive driver, yeah, H&M will come through for you.
Oh yeah, no, I don't drive anything less than 500 on a good day.
Got a boy. I like to hear that. Well, hey, fellas, to all of you, thank you so much for coming on. I know this type of stuff isn't always easy, especially not when you're a new employee, Rico. Sometimes you're worried, what if I run my mouth too much or something like that? Look, we've established this podcast for a reason. We know sometimes there's going to be questions and difficulties, and it's good, bad, and ugly, all shades. So I just really appreciate you as a new driver coming on here, sharing with us some of the adjustments and figuring out how it's going to work out for you. Be safe out there, Rico, and thanks again. We'll get you back on here in a few months, man. I'd love to hear some updates on that little boy of yours.
I appreciate it, man.
Hey, Rico, if you have any questions, if you got on Facebook and stuff like that, you'll see Randy Duran on there. Hit me up. I'll be glad to help you out as much as possible.
I'll tell my girl to do it because I don't have social media because the way this society's going, I can't deal with it. So, it's like a mental overload. So I'll tell my girl to do it. So I just go through her Facebook. So you might get a request from a female face, but I'll tell you my name in the questions when I do ask them.
All right, man.
All right.
Randy Duran, thank you for coming on and offering a little bit of advice to a new H&M driver, man. Always appreciate your time on this podcast.
Yep. Thank you.
And Danny Stone, I think that's going to just about wrap this one up for you and I, as long as you don't have anything else.
No, the only thing I could add to that is something I've preached for years, and they've never officially come up with it. But, a driver could do it on his own. Find a driver that's been around for a few more years. And what I'm talking about is like a mentorship.
Yep.
I'd love to see H&M do that, where they take some of their drivers that have been with them for 8-10 years, like Randy, and set them up as a mentor as long as they're willing, and give them the phone call. That way the dispatchers, load planners, they're not getting these phone calls just because the driver's upset or whatever, because the drivers are going to be more understanding of the day-to-day BS that we go through. So, if a new driver called me, I could help walk him through a lot of the stuff that, would save the dispatcher the headache. So, like I said, there's no official mentorship program through the company that I know of. But if you could find a driver that, you hit it off with sitting around the terminal one day or something, then, get his phone number, say, hey, man, if I run into an issue, can I call you? Like the payroll thing. You could have probably called somebody and not have to talk to Patty. They could have explained it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I would love to see them implement. But if not, like I said, maybe you could just do it on your own on a one-on-one deal.
For sure.
I do know that they do have, I don't know if they still have it because I haven't heard from them in a while, an advocate on H&M, to where if you have, you want to voice your opinion, you can call these people. These people are kind of like a go-between whoever they need to get a hold of within the company.
Yeah, I get that. But what I'm talking about is maybe, you've never been to such and such a consignee and you're not sure about the way to get in there. You could call a guy that, you go, oh, yeah, I've been to that Sherwin-Williams a number of times. Here's the way you go. That kind of thing. And, you can relate to this. You drive X number of hours a day. You're most likely just kind of bored out there, want somebody to talk to anyway. So that's more what I'm talking about. If you have an issue and a problem, yeah, you need to find the right person in the company to talk to resolve that. I'm just talking about day-to-day questions and helping out.
All right, fellas. Well, we got to get this thing wrapped up. We're up against the clock. Again, Rico, Randy, thank you for your time. Denny, sage advice as always. We couldn't do this podcast without all of you guys, and this is going to be a great episode. So you boys be safe out there on the road. Denny and I will make sure not to fall out of our recliners, okay?
Yeah, all right. You have a good one.
Take care, y'all. After a long day of driving, you're tired and hungry. With fewer and fewer good restaurants out there, what are your options? Fast food again? Something from the roller grill? Another cold sandwich? Hey, believe it or not, you can cook on the truck. Okay, it's not what Grandma would make, not a gourmet meal, but it'll be better, cheaper, and probably healthier than anything you can buy in the truck stop. And I'm here to show you how. Welcome to the Big Rig Cafe.
Hello, drivers. You hungry? Today we're making nachos. That's my favorite. That's the easiest thing to make on the truck. I can throw it together in a couple of minutes. There's like no mess to clean up afterwards, and it's so versatile. If you got some leftover chicken, maybe you had a rotisserie chicken the other day, or last weekend you were home and you barbecued and you had some chicken or maybe a steak or something, you got a little piece left, throw it on there. Okay, here's the basics. Start out with a paper plate so you don't have a mess. Okay, then you throw on some tortilla chips, easy to find. I always keep the basic ingredients of this on the truck because I eat nachos at least a couple of times a week. Shredded cheese, cheddar, Monterey Jack, whatever you like, put it on there. Some sliced jalapeno peppers. If you don't like peppers, you don't have to put them on there. And here's the extras you can put on. Refried beans, diced tomatoes. You can use Rotel. That's something you can keep on the truck. It's canned. If you don't have fresh tomatoes, you can throw on some Rotel with green chilies. Not quite as spicy as jalapenos. After you bring it out, you can put on sour cream, avocados, black olives, any of those kind of things. So again, start out with the paper plate, put your tortilla chips on there, the cheese on top of that, some jalapenos. You pop that dude in the microwave for however long it takes. At home, it's like 45 seconds, but on the truck, probably a minute, 15 or so. Play with it and see. You don't want to cook it too long because it gets hard. Then you bring it out, you throw on the extra stuff like the black olives and the tomatoes if you want some sliced jalapeno or some sliced avocado. Put that on there and then enjoy. It's that simple. Then when you're done, put the plate in the trash. No mess to clean up. Nachos. Enjoy.
Thanks for joining me for dinner here in the Big Rig Cafe. Do you have a favorite dish that you prepare on the truck? Do you know of a great place to eat out there on the road that's still around? Any questions, suggestions, or comments? I'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to catch me next week for another on-the-road dinner here in the Big Rig Cafe.
All right, so I'm really excited to bring you this next little bit of news here. I guess we could probably hit the breaking news intro, maybe? It's technically breaking. I'm going to read you some excerpts from an article here that Denny sent me, actually, from landline.media. And this is a really cool story, and I guess my major frustration with it right now is that I'm not seeing it at all the other places that I typically look for news. And I think that is a giant disservice to this gentleman. I'm going to tell you about a guy here named Frank Sonzala, and I'm just going to read some direct excerpts from this article on landline.media. It's written by Tom Berg. And it came out March 8th. It's titled, "A Man's Plan to Add 45,000 Truck Parking Spaces." Starting out here, it says that Frank Sonzala intends to supply a lot more trucking spaces for drivers. He's a longtime industry and marketing management executive. Sonzala plans to add 100 fenced-in facilities, each with 450 big rig-size spaces and driver-oriented amenities. His goal is to build the network along main U.S. travel routes by 2032. And he also adds, quote, "I wish we had competition because that would push us to have it done by 2030. It says here each facility will follow the same plan. Parking spaces will be angled for easy maneuvering, and there will be restrooms, showers, television, lounges, Wi-Fi, vending machines, eating areas, and an adjacent convenience store and hotel put in by partners like 7-Eleven and Hilton. Instead of expensive asphalt or concrete paving, the parking areas will use a GeoWeb soil stabilization system. It was developed for the Army Corps of Engineers in the 1970s, according to Brian Whedon, chief engineer for Presto Geosystems, who is the originator of this technology. The method requires comparatively shallow subsoil preparation and stabilizes dirt and other materials with a honeycomb-like structure made of a high-density polyethylene. Interlinked vertical walls in the structure form cells that secure rock, gravel, and soil, forming a firm base that can be driven and walked on. Prepared areas allow rain and melting snow to pass through the drain and into the ground. Drippings of oil and grease will be captured by additional sheeting under the honeycomb while water continues draining. If draining slows, earthen materials and the honeycombing can be taken up, the filter-like sheeting can be cleaned or replaced, and then the surface can be reformed. Geowebbing has been used globally in various infrastructure projects, Whedon said. It goes in fast, and materials are relatively inexpensive, and this is big right here. So it costs about half that of laying traditional hard surfaces that also require drain pipes, curbing, and other structures. Sonzala said this makes his plan financially feasible. Also, he plans to acquire rural property that's lower priced than in urban areas. An example is the first planned facility, branded Contrade after his holding company, that will be sited along Interstate 35 between San Antonio and Laredo, Texas. Expansion will go from there as additional parcels of land are required. Now, I think this is a really cool thing because we've talked about this on this show a lot. Like, we need more parking spaces. That's all there is to it. More. And then at one point in time, this has been months back, I asked a driver that I had on, hey, what's the problem with just laying out some concrete slabs along the side of major freeways where we've got all this rural land that, you know, might be just not even really in use. It's just owned by the county or it's owned by the state and it just kind of sits there. It would remind you of like CRP area where I'm from, which is kind of places where the government kind of pays farmers and landowners not to grow anything on it. Like, don't grow corn, don't grow wheat, don't do alfalfa. We will pay you to just let your cattle graze on the natural land as it sits. That's great. I'm all for agricultural things that advance the ecosystem. However, my question was, why can't we buy a few of these and throw a big concrete slab down and, you know, park trucks there so that we have extra parking? Because we obviously don't have enough parking spots. And one thing that the drivers brought up to me was, hey, that's all well and good, but you have to think about security. Truck drivers are often targeted in big parking lots for scams, burglaries, you know, truck theft and vandalism, lot lizards, predatory towing, all of these things. So security is an issue. Well, it kind of sounds like Sonzala has addressed that. He says security will begin with fencing surrounding each property and careful screening of trucks and drivers upon their entrance through a manned gate. Quote, ratty trucks with a lot of oil leaks won't be let in. We'll scan license plates and driver's licenses and have AI-based facial recognition equipment, so drivers known to have records also won't be let in. Excluded too will be lot lizards and scam artists. So, okay, great. What about the truck stops? Are the truck stops going to be a little bit upset about this? This seems like maybe it could carve into their business a little bit. And it's interesting because there's actually a little bit of an excerpt from a truck stop operator here, and he addresses that. Frank Solonzala first, before we get to the truck stop operator, he says, we're not going to bother truck stops. They do fuel. We'll leave that to them. They do truck servicing in restaurants. We'll leave that to them. We will do parking. I think these will become magnets, drawing in fuel stops and other businesses around them. Drivers can use these to fuel up, eat, and then come over to us and park. A truck stop executive concurred. Quote, I don't see it as a competitor, says Brandon Rockwell, service vice president at Travel Centers of America. For service, we might help. If a driver over there needed service work, they could refer him to us, and our mobile service tech could go over and do the work, and he'd have a safe place to work on the truck. This is all awesome news. I really hope that we can accelerate this a little bit. And here's what I have to say about it. This is my 2 cents. This is the part of the story where you can tune out if you want to, because I'm just sharing my thoughts on it. And as always, I'm going to look at the leaders of this great nation and I'm going to point at them like, hey, you guys talk about these issues all the time. You want to gloat and say that you're all about America's truckers and you want to protect them and you want to give them the amenities that they need. Then why aren't we funding something like this? This should be on a bill at the House tomorrow. We give people subsidies for hiring people. We give subsidies for doing community service work. We give subsidies for people that have good emissions. Why aren't we giving this guy some government subsidies to help move this process along? He just gave us a timeline of 8 years. Now, obviously, that's probably 8 years to build all 450 of these that he wants to build. But we're talking about a really good idea here, a sustainable idea that's cheaper than normal, that will be more secure than a lot of truck stop parking lots, because let's face it, I can just drive in there. I can roll in there at any time, and I could just be milling around like a creeper, and nobody's going to say anything to me. Well, okay, some of them have security, but they're not fenced off with somebody sitting at the front taking tickets like we're trying to get into the hottest club in downtown LA. This is a really good idea, you guys, and having a safe place with some amenities. It'll be limited, but think about this. I talk to drivers all the time that make a lot of meals in their truck. Most of, if not all of their meals, they make in their truck. Imagine this. You whip up the meal in the truck, and then you walk into the little travel center that's there, and there's a nice dining area where you can sit down at a real table in a real chair, watch some TV on a TV that's more than 5 feet from your face, and enjoy your meal. Then go out, go to sleep in the cab, wake up, head to the next one. This sounds like a brilliant idea to me, and I think, in my own personal opinion, which coupled with 50 cents won't buy you a bad cup of coffee at any truck stop, I think we should be throwing money at this. I think there's already infrastructure in place. It sounds like he's got it figured out. It sounds like a really good plan, and he's already partnered with 7-Eleven and Hilton. That's only one of the biggest hotel corporations and one of the biggest mini-mart corporations that we have here in the nation. You get Shell or Texaco or Chevron on board and make sure that they've got a facility that truck drivers can use to fuel up. This would be like a one-stop shop that doesn't take you into these shady areas. I know from talking to drivers right here on this podcast, there are some truck stops that you would rather not stop at. And why? Because they're in shady areas. I know H&M tries to do their best to let drivers know that, hey, this probably isn't a place you want to be, but they don't always have the choice. Well, if 20 miles up the road before that shady truck stop, there was one of these parking facilities, you wouldn't have to worry about it. You can know you're going to be safe and secure, and you're going to have everything that you need besides maybe fuel, which, hey, who doesn't mind a quick little 15-minute fuel up and get back on the road? That's fine. I think that's something you deal with every single day, so you know how to get in and out of those places if you're not actually stopping at them to rest. I can't tell you how much it disappoints me to not see this be a bigger story. And maybe it will be. Maybe we're right on the precipice here. Maybe this will start to work its way more into the mainstream media outlets that cover the transportation industry. I certainly hope so, because this could change things, all right? We're talking, at the beginning of this article, they said there are an estimated 365,000 parking spaces in the United States for trucks. That ain't enough. That ain't even close to enough. That's like a third of what we need. And we're only talking about adding 45,000, which isn't probably enough, but it's a giant step in the right direction. It's like 15% more than what we've already got. And if we do that once or twice, all of a sudden this parking issue is so much smaller than what it is currently. And drivers aren't shelling out $30 a night to park at a truck stop. I can almost guarantee you that what this guy's going to do, what Frank Sonzala is going to do here, is partner with trucking companies. You know, it would make perfect sense to say H&M has a deal with this guy where their drivers, so long as they meet all the requirements, which I can't imagine that H&M's hiring people that would be rejected. I know they're not running gear that would be rejected from one of these places. So why not partner with them and make it so that the drivers aren't swiping a card or handing over cash every time they roll in? It's something that is just baked into their pay and baked into the deal that H&M or any other trucking company, for that matter, might have with the parking service. I think it's fantastic, you guys. I'd really like to know what you think about it. Make sure and hit us up in the comments on the social posts. You'll see them. Tell me what you think. This could be the first step in the right direction to finally solving, or at least getting closer to solving, our parking issue. And I say our because at this point in time, I'm screaming about it from the rooftops. I hear so many of you drivers say that this is a number one or like a top 3 concern for you. Then let's do something about it. And let's get daddy government in here to throw a few bucks our way, because without these parking spots, what we're doing is we're fatiguing drivers. We're making them park in very unsafe spaces. We've seen plenty of the dash cam footage from when a truck's parked on the side of the road trying to get in a 10, and all of a sudden another truck barely veers off the shoulder and smokes the parked truck. People get hurt. People get killed. This is a problem, and it's costing the transportation industry more than we know right now. So let's take some of that cost. Let's plug it in to Frank Sonzala's plan. and let's try to solve this parking issue. Let me know in the comments what you think about it. I cannot thank Randy Duran and Denny Stone enough for coming on and talking to new driver Rico Gibbs. And I also can't thank Rico enough. I know that was probably not the easiest thing to do. You know, after you've got a couple months under your belt, you're really starting to figure stuff out, but there's some questions out there, and I'm sure that there's a little bit of trepidation around those questions. You might not want to ask them because you don't want to feel like you're not getting it or things aren't going as well as they should be. So thank you. Big hats off to, of course, Randy and Denny for helping out, but even bigger hats off to Rico for coming on and saying, listen, these are a few of the things that I just need some help with. And if I've learned anything over the time that we've done this podcast, over 51 episodes, what I've learned is that there's always somebody at H&M that's willing to help you out, whether it be a driver, maybe your driver manager, maybe your dispatcher, maybe it's Eve and the ladies over in HR, maybe you're hooking back up with Sherry and recruiting to figure out some things and build some relationships there. There's always somebody around to help. But one thing that you might not know as a new driver for H&M is who that appropriate person is. Who's the person that's really going to iron out this kink for me? And we found out a little bit about who to call today. And just to recap, if you're a new driver listening to this, you know what? You're out there putting your time in. You're out there doing your job, doing it well, checking all the boxes, meeting all the standards. It sounds pretty cool that H&M is just willing to work with you when it comes to getting you a vacation, getting you overseas to hang out with your newborn son and your lady. It's not every company that's going to do that for a guy like Rico. He's new. They might think, oh, he doesn't have any seniority. We're going to make sure and take care of all the other drivers first, and then we'll get to the guys that are new on the roster. That ain't how H&M does it. Everybody gets the respect that they deserve at H&M, and new drivers and old drivers alike. I've seen that and I've heard it on this very podcast time and time again. And to hear Randy and Denny both, without a question, when Rico was asking about, hey man, I'm trying to get over to England and see, my lady and my little guy once they go back over there. And Denny and Randy just without pause, hey, talk to them, they'll work with you. As long as you're pulling your weight at H&M, H&M's going to pull their weight and treat you like a person and not just like a number. It's a recurring theme on this podcast, and I know that it's something that is well in force in the culture at H&M. You are a person. You're not a number. You deserve to be treated like a person. You deserve to be cared about, and I think that all these great employees that we have here at H&M are really committed to that for you, the drivers. So don't forget, if you have a question, if there's something going on, actually, I think, like Randy said, call a senior driver. Call somebody that's got some experience under their belt. If you've got their number, I know these guys would love to help you. We've had Tom Woods on this podcast a lot. Tom is a guy that if he meets you and you're a new driver at H&M, get ready to nestle in under his wing because Tom is going to help you out. Tom's got all sorts of experience. Just like Randy, and he is willing. And I think that what I'm trying to say here is it's not just Tom and it's not just Randy. There are a bunch of drivers at H&M with a lot of experience with H&M and elsewhere that are willing to jump in and give you advice, help you out. You got to build the trail before you can walk on it, and you got to pave the road before you can drive on it. And I think those first 3 months with the new company, it's all about paving the road, man. And so call an older driver. If you don't have the details, like the contact information of an older driver that you can, and I say older, I don't mean older as in age. I mean older as in experience. Please don't think that I'm being ageist here. I've gotten in trouble for that in the past. So excuse me for the vocabulary that I use. Call a more tenured driver. If you don't have their digits, get in touch with Sherry, get in touch with Eve, get in touch with your driver manager, get in touch with your dispatcher. these people will give you these other drivers' numbers so that you can call them. And who knows, maybe you strike up a friendship. Maybe you turn it into a party line where we've got some senior drivers out here talking to the new guys during their days and trying to help them along. It's a great company. It's a great culture. And what we saw in this last interview is that it's firmly enforced, like I already said. So thank you to Randy Duran, and thank you to Rico Gibbs, and also thank you to my co-host extraordinaire, Denny Stone, retired H&M driver of 10 years. The amount of knowledge that comes out of these guys when you start talking trucking is second to none. So make sure you keep it tuned right here to the H&M Trucking Podcast every single Wednesday for a new episode. We're going to be talking to drivers and laying some of that knowledge on you. That's all I've got for you today. Thank you for 51 episodes. I can't wait for 52. Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Thank you for listening to the H&M Trucking Podcast. Please leave a review, subscribe, and connect with Marcus over at the H&M Trucking social media channels. And if you're considering a job at H&M, find us at hmtrucking.com. Until next time, stay safe and ahead of the curve drivers.